Go, and we are live. So good evening, good day, good morning, whatever is your time zone there where you're watching. My name is Mika. I'm your host this evening for the World Sports Chiropractic chat show. And this evening I have an absolute pleasure to be joined by none other than the living legend, the great Dane, Dr. Ulrik Sandstrom. So welcome, Ulrik. Lovely to have you on the show, man.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, situation in the world is what it is, and we all have a bit of a funny place, and we're all in a funny place when it comes to treating patients or not treating patients, and sort of, being allowed to go outdoors or not allowed to go outdoors, whatever it may be. But how is it for you at the moment? Is your clinic open at the moment?
We just literally went back just on Monday seeing urgent care patients. So yeah, we've had 2 or 3 weeks of trying to get all our health and safety and risk assessment and all that sort of stuff in place, and yeah, learning how to don. I was thinking confused whether I put gloves on or apron or mask first, and I've got a little signing clinic, but yeah, that still confuses me a little bit. But no, it's pretty tough, but it's amazing to be back in actually helping patients again.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, it probably must feel awesome to be back and doing what you most love.
Yeah, no, it is. Obviously, the worst case thing, of course, is that the rugby season is finished and is no more, and we finished about 2/3 of the way through the season, and I've not been back to my beloved Leicester Tigers for the last 10 weeks or so.
So you must be having withdrawal symptoms.
I am a little bit, but as a good old rugby coach of Leicester Tigers once said, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's not what he said. You told me earlier, but we're not going to do the explicit version here. No, that's brilliant. Hey, listen, I almost forgot, but let's put the little bio sheet up for a second. So those who don't necessarily know Ulrik very well, there's a few bits and bobs about Ulrik. So you obviously went to ACC in Bournemouth, you qualified there back in the dark days of history already, and your sort of specialities are a bit of a broad selection. You got your rugby and football, and even more endurance stuff like running, triathlon, cycling. So that sounds like a good mix, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. Rugby was something I sort of fell into, really, because obviously, having grown up in Denmark, I didn't know what rugby was. It was the bit where as you flick through the channels on TV, you went, oh, this looks really interesting. And then after about 5 minutes, this just looks a complete mess. I have no idea what's going on. So yeah, it was a little strange that I actually ended up working for the best rugby club in the world. We're struggling a little at the moment. The last couple of seasons haven't been so good, but we'll be back.
Of course we will. It only needs a brand new owner with about 200 billion pounds, and then you can buy your way back to the top, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Oh no, sorry, that's football. Never mind. Oh goodness. Well, so it sounds like it's an interesting thing for a Danish guy to go into rugby. I mean, but I have to say, I totally shared your kind of initial impression of rugby as well. I mean, being from Finland, rugby is not really the done thing, but ice hockey obviously is. And we're passingly good at ice hockey, should we call it? But because I wasn't that keen on football anymore, coming to England to study and everything. So I thought, well, rugby would be a good opportunity, But watching that for 5-10 minutes, and I was what are they doing? Why are they passing the ball backwards? I mean, come on, that doesn't make any sense,
No, and of course at the ACC, when I was at the ACC, I think we were about 3 months into first term, and I was just sat I think it was one of those rare evenings that I went to the college bar, I think, and the captain of the rugby team went, "Oh, like you should come and play rugby with us." And I don't even know what it is. I said, no, yeah, great, it's really fun. Come and join us for the rugby team. But I don't know the rules. I don't even know what rugby is. So it's like, well, can you run? Well, yeah, I can run. Can you catch a ball? Well, obviously, as any Dane, I used to play handball.
Yeah.
So they went, no, you'd be great. You'd be in the team. And what I fairly quickly realized was essentially as long as you were over 13 stone and over 6 foot, you got invited to join the rugby team. That was the only criteria. Whether you even knew what rugby was or had ever caught a rugby ball in the world didn't matter so much. But I don't know what it was like in Europe year, but in our year, it was, well, our year and year above, it was only really the Norwegians who were stupid enough to accept that invitation.
Oh yeah, Viking blood, isn't it?
Yeah. So they used to come back, obviously, on a Monday morning, just covered in injuries, because, of course, what I now know to be the old suicide pass, tended to go the way of the Norwegians. So I decided, no, I'd join the cycling club instead.
See, they didn't try and talk me into rugby. Maybe I'm too skinny and small, but they tried to talk me into playing cricket once. And that's another very puzzling game, I have to say. Weird English thing. I don't get cricket at all. Yeah. My sort of pet thing about cricket is that, you can have a match that lasts 5 days.
Yeah.
Right, so you have two teams, opposing teams, who have uneven number of scores, and it's a tie.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
No, and also, I mean, any sport where you sort of break for food, and break for lunch, you've sort of lost my interest a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And so, my first experience of cricket, kind of like, for Bournemouth, Boscombe Beach, we went down there, and so they put these sticks in the ground, and whatever. And then my mate Mike, he says, right, I'm going to bat, you throw, you be the pitcher, whatever it is, bowler. So you bowl. I says, okay, how do I do that? So I kind of went like that, like, no. So what basically resulted was me nearly dislocating my shoulder because I just had no idea how to do the move properly. And I thought, you know what, I'll just watch. I'm happy.
And of course, the strange thing was that was, the ACC, that was my, first experience of rugby, and I sort of left it on the shelf. And then, pretty amazingly, about 15 years later, I had a phone call from Leicester Tigers medical department. And it was slightly embarrassing, and I'll still tell the story. The embarrassing was that I didn't actually know who they were.
Oh dear.
So I had a phone call that hi, I'm the head of medical at Leicester Tigers Rugby. No, Leicester Tigers. We've got your name on the grapevine. We're looking for a chiropractor to get involved with us. Is that something you'd be interested in? I was like, yeah, I've always been interested in getting involved with the club. So we agreed, for an interview, and he hung up, and I thought, Leicester Tigers, is that ice hockey, basketball? And then, of course, Google it. Oh, it's rugby. And then
there you go.
I've got a few local mates who I knew were really into rugby. And we were out on a Friday night. I said, oh, I'm interviewed down at Leicester Tigers. And they both sort of dropped their jaw. And I sort of remember, are they a big deal? And yeah, they sort of are.
Yeah.
I literally didn't know who they were. So it was quite interesting, because I turned up for the interview. The interview lasted about an hour, and he said, yeah, when can you start? And I said, well, I can start next Monday. And he said, oh, actually, could you start now? Yeah. And what I realized in hindsight, that was obviously part of the interview. So I went over, saw 3 players, didn't know them from Adam. Turned out that 2 of them were in the rugby, in the World Cup winning team of 2003. But of course, I didn't know who they were.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, that was my entry into Leicester Tigers.
Well, that sounds like a really nice way of getting in there. Slightly stumbling and slowly finding your way, and then now you're part of the furniture pretty much already, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. And certainly it sort of took this, I wasn't particularly starstruck because I didn't know who they were. And only now do I realize, what a big deal they were. It was probably a good job that I didn't know that at the time.
No. I mean, being cool as cucumber, a bit blasé about stuff, is always a good look, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Rather than asking for autographs on the spot.
Yeah, exactly that.
So is that now the official Ulrik Sandström's top tip #1 when you go and interview for a club? Be blasé and cool like a cucumber.
Pretend you don't know who they are. That's it. Regardless of who the big star in front of you is, just pretend that you haven't got a clue who they are.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah. No, that might be in some instances it might be difficult, but you know what? Yeah, I can see how that would work though.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what's the other sort of top tips for you? If you give me top three, that was top number one.
Yeah. Some of you who heard me speak before know that one of probably my number one tip is actually just leave the ego.
Yeah.
Because it tends to get you in trouble, and it's really hard. And I'll elaborate a little bit. As I often say, that the problem with us as chiropractors is that we're actually pretty bad at working as part of a team.
Yeah.
On the whole, because we haven't done it. We go to chiropractic college, with a load of chiropractic students, and we hang out with them, and then we graduate and we end up working in a chiropractic clinic with some other chiropractors, and then we end up opening potentially our own chiropractic clinic. And by the time we're sort of 5 or 10 years into practice and might start looking at getting involved in some serious sport, we've had enough people through our door telling us that we're God that we now sort of start to believe them, which is a fairly dangerous place to come into an elite club.
Are you saying that we're not gods?
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
what?
This isn't going out, is it? It's not going
anywhere. No, sorry, edit that bit. Yeah, we can't have that out, going out in public.
But because the problem then is that we're so used to, we call the shots. We see the patient. We make the diagnosis. We design the management plan. We carry out the management plan. We decide whether the patient is getting better or not. And we are sort of kings of our own little domain.
Yeah. And
of course, if you end up getting involved, particularly if you're getting involved in a bigger elite club, you will tend to have a hierarchy of a medical director who's often a physio.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, you've now been God, and you now end up in a position where you have a physiotherapist telling you what you can and can't do, which a lot of chiropractors struggle with that. And again, one of my little tips is that if you rock up in a club on the first day and no one has told you what to do, ask.
Yeah.
So ask, why am I here? What do you want me to do? What is my role? Do you just want me to adjust or manip? I've been involved in sport for too long, but I called it manip. Yeah. I even talk about it now. Yeah. So, but check out what the chain of command is. Who do you answer? And if on the first day you go in and go, is it just adjustments that you want me to do?
Yeah.
I do soft tissue. Am I okay to use my needles? I've got some little funky instruments. Are you okay with me using those too? How does it work in terms of me seeing a player? Do you want to assess, come up with a plan, run that plan past you, and then treat? Or are you happy for me to go ahead and treat and report to you after? And if that's your first day at work, generally most people in there will get a little bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling, go, oh, this guy actually knows how it works.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a team player. Because I have heard, we've all heard the stories of, chiropractors walking into fairly high profile positions and going, it'll be fine now. I don't know how you ever managed to win anything before, but don't worry, it'll be fine. The chiropractor's here.
Yeah. By the way, you're fired.
Yeah. And it is tricky. And it is that whole hierarchy. Because I guess as chiropractors, there probably is a feeling of superiority towards physiotherapists. And most of that is driven by the fact that in private practice, most of the physiotherapists we compare ourselves to are NHS physios.
Yeah.
Who, as a sweeping generalization, are the ones who get a patient in with low back pain and they go, do these.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sort of the extent of it.
Yeah.
So compared to that, as manual therapists, we look pretty good.
Yeah.
But what we forget is that most of the time, if you work in elite sport, most of these physios that you work with, they've got higher qualifications than you have.
Yeah, no.
They've got more stuff than you have. And the other thing is they have earned their stripes.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They have stood on the sideline with their local, kids team and amateur teams for years in the pouring rain, getting wet and cold for no money.
Yeah, well, therein lies the conundrum, isn't it? So those 5 to 10 years after qualification that us chiropractors, we were cushy and cozy in our little clinic somewhere. they were on pitch side, freezing their bits off and being shouted at by angry parents and whatnots. And yeah, we weren't. So yeah, no, of course they will have a wholly different level of experience from the sport itself.
Yeah, and that's where you've got to just come in and be a little humble.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the key, and understanding how it works, and understanding who you report to and who is your boss, because and also never ever question any of the other medical team's decisions in front of a player. Because players or athletes can be fickle. They will try, if you give them an answer they don't like, they'll go try and find some other part of the medical team who tells them something they want to hear. And it happens. And, again, I've heard of chiropractors in the field who ended up with really good jobs, and second week in told the player that, I don't know, oh, no, the physio was wrong, they should have never done that. You may think that, you may even be right.
But you don't say it.
That's not what you tell the player. You go, no, that's really cool. I'll go speak to the physio. And quite often the get out is if you get a feeling that someone's trying to get an opinion of you that might not match with someone else, you sort of go, oh, great, I'll have a quick exam. I'll just go and catch up with Bobby or Dave or whoever's in the team.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll have a discussion. And again, to be honest, that as well actually does endear you to the rest of the medical team. The fact that not just how it works in terms of therapists, but how the politics and everything else works. You're savvy to the fact that you could potentially land someone in trouble or land yourself in trouble if you're not exactly with the language.
No, absolutely, and that's I suppose, you know what, if you're supposed to be dining at the same table, you don't start spitting other people's cereal, isn't it?
No, literally that. That's great analogy. I'll remember that.
I think that might be an ancient Finnish saying.
Yeah, it is now.
Well, or might have just come up with it now. I don't know. But
so as the law goes, I'll quote you 5 times, Mika, and then it's mine. And
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's how it works.
You quote me in the Times, and British Journal of Sports Medicine, that kind of stuff, and then yeah, you can have it. That's fine.
That's good.
No, that's perfect. No, that's cool, man. So hey, in terms of obviously you probably in your day-to-day clinic you treat more recreational rugby players as well. So it's not just a studded field of England's first 15 or whatnot. So what would you say is the number one difference then between the pros and the amateurs?
It's an interesting question. A slightly unusual answer is actually their commitment to rest.
Oh, I can believe that.
Because, of course, the problem with a lot of, whether it's rugby or any other sort of amateur or Sunday afternoon recreational sports is that they don't rest, and they don't, when you tell them that you need to rest, they don't believe you. Because, of course, they believe that you can magic things. And particularly when they know that you work in elite sport, they'll often go, well, if I was one of your Tigers players, I'd be back playing on Monday. And you go, no, if you were one of our Tigers players and you had a Lions tour booked on Monday, we'd pull you out. You wouldn't be going on tour. And they go, what? You go, no, you're injured. You have an injury. We need to calm things down and get you recovered and then build some strength back and rehab you and all that sort of stuff. I can't do that in a fortnight when you've got a grade 3, MCL. But of course they and any elite athlete or pro athlete, they know that, and because they know that their livelihood and their career depends on it, they will generally go right. They do what we tell them. Yeah. On the whole, they will rest and they will do their active recovery and everything else. Whereas actually, very often the Sunday afternoon athlete has a slightly unrealistic expectation of what we can do with an actual significant structural injury, and it comes as a little bit of a surprise to them from time to time. And
the other thing is, I suppose, is that the pro athlete, they get paid to recover.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whereas your recreational athlete goes, yeah, you need to rest, Bob. You know, you need to take it easy and put your legs up and relax. No, I'm just going to work.
Yeah.
Right. So you're a landscape gardener.
Yeah.
You're just going to work to rest, is it?
Yeah, and the thing again from that point of view is that that if you tell someone you can't do your sport, it's the look of disbelief. And I used to be quite soft on this until I started working in elite sport. And I if someone goes, oh, but I really need to run. I want to run. I'd go, well, you can't run. And I used to go, well, maybe run a bit or not too fast, or maybe just do a couple of K, or, whereas I now go, no, don't run. And they go, what do you mean don't run? You can't run. But I have to run. That's right. So your children eating depends on you running? Well, maybe not. Go, you can't run. Then, of course, they go, then if they take it to the edge, they go, well, can't I just run a little bit? Well, listen, it's a free country. You can do whatever you like. However, if you want to get better, the quickest, you listen to what I'm telling you. So I'm a lot more ruthless in that sort of first ways of, recovery, calming things down, get some healing in before we start loading up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, one thing I oftentimes use is that, if they say stop bargaining with this, I just say, look, go run.
Yeah.
You're just not going to get better.
Yeah.
What do you mean? But you're doing your thing, they say, well, yeah, I'm doing my thing, but you're not doing your thing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I can't win this fight for you. That's your body just needs a bit of time.
Yeah.
And usually that kind of allows that at least the communication to resume on a different level, if you like.
Yeah, and with one of my favorite quotes sort of recently, and I use this with all patients, but I particularly use it with athletes. Again, we get really head up about all the the different levels of rehab, and do we do isometric before eccentrics, before concentrics, or and I said, well, basically there's two stages to rehab, and this is a free quote from Greg Lehman. There's the calm shit down phase, which is followed by the build shit back up phase.
Yeah, fair enough.
And actually, it's sort of almost is that simple for most of what we do. And of course, this is where you get the runners going, oh, I felt loads better, so I went for 10K. And now my calf is in agony again. What have you done? What you're doing isn't working.
Yeah. Oh, it's your fault, Ulrik.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you go, well, no. We were still calming shit down. We hadn't gone to building anything back up yet.
That's right.
And and this is where your strength and your calf raises and all this sort of stuff, building strength and strength endurance comes in. And the phrase that I really like and that I use a lot with particularly with amateur athletes is, you haven't earned the right to run.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
You haven't done your build-up. We were calming things down and you were feeling better, but you had no right to run. You can't do 3 calf raises in good form. If you can't do that, you have no right to run.
Oh, I'm going to use that. I'll quote you again 5 times. And then
that's fine. Yep.
That's amazing. I'll use that. That's brilliant.
But it really works. And again, you had no right to go back to Zumba because you couldn't stand on one leg without a Trendelenburg. You've got no stability core. And in terms of, particularly in terms of your recreational athlete, in terms of motivating people to your rehab regime, using that phrase really works. This is where you earn the right. And I know the Superman and the side plank is boring as hell. And I know those calf raises are just tedious, but do them while you clean your teeth. And, that monster walk, getting your hip stability, again, you can clean your teeth while you're monster walking. I'm a big fan of that. And this is where you earn the right to get back to running, cycling, playing badminton, doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden, there's a bit more of a purpose to it.
No, absolutely. No, that's a really good one. I'll definitely use that. Absolutely. Cool, man. So hold on, that was number 2 or 3 out of your top 3?
Yeah, so 2 and 2.5, I think.
2 1/4, maybe. Yeah, right, fair enough. So go on, go with another one.
So again, obviously, what everyone else always is doing, how did you end up at 2 Olympic Games and working for an elite rugby team? And the true question is, I'm still not really quite sure.
Yeah.
Because actually, it was never a plan.
Okay.
So whenever I speak at any of the colleges, you can tell a couple of my old lecturers, because of course all the students go, "How did you end up doing that?" And a couple of my old lecturers go, "How the hell did Ulrik end up doing that?" Because I was a regional pupil. I wasn't a star. It was never destined to happen, and I wasn't even particularly massively into sports chiropractic as a student. I just, I started just being an ordinary chiropractor in a clinic and saw lots of patients, and then sort of got involved with a local basketball team who approached me, and it sort of went from there.
Nice.
But of course, what people really want is the formula. How do I get involved? And
absolutely.
And it is tricky. But the one little tip that I quite like is, because we do, particularly all of those who are interested in sport, the word does get around, and we do end up seeing athletes in clinic. But I would always say, if you can get involved with a sports team, doesn't matter whether it's elite or semi-pro or an amateur team, try and get out of your clinic and into the team.
Yeah.
Because it is just a whole different way of working. Because now you have to communicate with the rest of a medical team. Now you learn so much. So I'm just on a little bit of a tangent here. I'll pull it back. And because that's one of the things about sport is I've learned more in working with different disciplines within sport than I had done on most of the chiropractic CPD I've done. I always remember my first. Actually, I've got my little. Actually, I'll just pull it off. Oh, did that just drop down? Damn, it just dropped down behind. I've got my little certificate from the 2005 Duisburg World Games.
Oh, yeah.
Which was my first World Games experience, involvement. And it blew my mind in terms of being involved in a big event as a chiropractic team. And of course, I was working with like those guys that I just had looked up to for years. We're all there and all chipping in and going, "No, try this." And we were workshopping and doing CPDs, and all this stuff was happening. And in that week, I learned more than 7 years of CPD, just working with these were chiropractors, but again, working with a lot of physios and doctors across there. So,
absolutely.
And again, I'll just put a little bit of a tangent to my tangent here, because
carry on.
These heroes that I was working with, because my very first, everyone always remembers their first ICCSPDC, whatever it was.
Yeah, that thing.
I've forgotten what it was back when I was even taking it, and the instructors on my first hands-on seminar was Brian Nook, Tom Hyde, Tim Stark, and Mike Murray.
Nice. Now that's a hell of a lineup.
That's a pretty decent lineup. And all of a sudden, of course, I was, I was there, working with some of them at these events. So,
wow.
So yeah, that was a pretty epic lineup, and it was just great to see, and working with these people in those environments. And I'm now pulling back my tangents again, but that is why I think if you can get out of clinic, get out of your comfort zone, work with other clinicians and practitioners, and if they're from a different field, even better.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're working in a bigger club, it'll tend to be an open plan sort of treatment room, which is amazing. Actually, this is my tip 2.75. If they ask you what day you can do, ask them what day is everyone in. Yeah. What's the day where all with the physios, the docs, and everyone? What day are you sort of triaging, or what's that day? Because you want to be in there.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in on the day where everyone's off and people come in to see the chiropractor, because you want to be there when the physios are doing stuff, when the doc is there, and the massage there, and the rehab trainers are there, and because you literally learn so much. You see funky, cool little tests, and you go, "Oh," and then you grab them over coffee, and go, "Just talk me through that one." And again, that's when you get tools that you then bring back and use in clinic.
No, absolutely.
And pulling it back to our original 3.0, now is basically the point where if we see a patient in clinic, and I'm sure quite a few will have seen someone, a player or an athlete from a local club, and they walk in and they go, yeah, I play for such and such, and I really don't want the physio to know that I'm here, because, but I hear you're pretty good with backs or hamstrings, or, a few of my friends have told me about you, but I don't want the physio to know that I've got it behind his back. And obviously, the first thing you've got to do is, there's patient confidentiality, so you've got to honor that. But you can often spin that, and you examine them, you treat, and particularly after maybe after a treatment or two, when they really get what you do, or maybe even on the first treatment, I said, well, what's the physio like, or what's the head of medical like? And do you know if they're very anti-chiropractic, or they go, no, he's really cool, but I feel bad about him knowing that I was here.
Yeah.
And what I then say is, well, it would actually be really handy if I could communicate with him or her.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because that means that we can sort of sing from the same hymn sheet, and we can work together in trying to get you better. And if there's one thing that an athlete loves, is when 2 or 3 people communicate about them. Because a lot of athletes will be used to one person saying one thing, one person saying another thing. So you might just trigger a little bit of, oh yeah, actually that would be nice if they both talk together.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I normally do is I normally pick my card up. I write my personal email and my personal mobile number. I give it to the player and say, listen, for me, it'd be really handy if we could work together. Even if it's just a case of me just dropping the physio an email with my notes from today of what I've done, just so that he knows what's going on. And obviously, if he's got any questions, he can get in touch. And I just tell the player, listen, if you feel it's appropriate and you think he might be open to it, just hand him this, and just even say, oh, I'm really sorry, but I went to see this chiropractic dude. A couple of my mates have been to see him, and they thought he was all right. And he's really interested in just communicating what he's done with me to you. And that's just a really nice little opening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it won't happen. Sometimes the physio won't get involved. And if he won't, well, you've not lost anything, because he probably wasn't open to it. But I've had several occasions where I've actually had a phone call or an email going, oh, I see you've seen such and such. Yeah, be great with some notes. And you just drop them some soap notes. And that's the start. And then all of a sudden, they may say, oh, yeah, you did pretty well with this guy. We've got another player with this. Do you want to have a little look? And go, yeah, absolutely. And again, the key thing is then invite them in, if it's appropriate, and just extend that invitation going, oh, yeah, no, I'd love to see such and such. Oh, and if when Carl comes in on Monday, if you're free or you're interested, I'd be really happy for you to come in with him. And just what I do, we could talk through. And again, it's just extending that invitation.
That's right.
Which often is a nice little way of opening doors.
No, that's right. Absolutely. No, that's really good sound advice, actually, for all of our viewers, listeners, who are watching this and who are thinking, okay, how to do this job and how to get involved and that, man, that's been awesome. You sharing these tips. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. And but yeah, coming back to what you were saying earlier about the IC, SB, DDD, whatever courses, and your stellar lineup of instructors, obviously there. So we have, of course, Brian Nook, who is still very much involved with FICS now, and he's the head of finance at the moment, and has his spoon in many soups, as they say. And Tom Hyde is knocking about. I think he's actually retired, but I managed to actually track him down, and I'm gonna have a little chat with Tom later on. So that'll be really. I'm quite looking forward to it, because he wrote the book.
Yeah,
he wrote the book. That is unbelievable, right? So I mean, that's something that I never thought I would get to have a chat with Tom, but that's something that we've arranged, and that'll be really, really quite cool. And Mike Murray was on my first course as well, with Dr. Larry. You remember Larry Bell?
Yeah.
Larry. Yeah. There, and who else did you mention there?
Tim.
Oh, Tim Stark. Yeah, that's right. Of course. Tim is obviously one of the most prolific master instructors in FICS history, isn't he? He's done probably more courses than anybody.
I think so.
But you're kind of getting closer, aren't you? Because you're doing these courses now yourself.
Yeah, well, I was my again, the highlight of my teaching was when Simon and Bradley out in South Africa sort of contacted me and said, would you be interested in teaching a double FICS course in Stellenbosch with Brian and Tim? It was a fairly swift reply. You had me at Stellenbosch and Brian and Tim.
That's the bear crap in the woods, son.
Yeah. So yeah, we had, and again, I just love teaching with those guys, and it's just because it's always fun, and we know where each other's coming from, and we cover each other's bases, but there's enough differences between what we do, and yeah, no, that's always a complete hoot. And again, I still learn stuff from it. Whenever I teach with any of these guys, you go, oh yeah, damn, I've forgotten about that. Yeah, I need to use that a little bit more.
No, that gives you as much of a buzz, I'm sure, as it gives me, and it gives to the students themselves. And no, that's always the cool thing. You always, somebody will say something.
Yeah.
Somebody will ask you a question. It's there's this funny twist. It makes you think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every time it happens, you go to a seminar, you go to whatever little CPD thing, just a talk, and you just listen to it, and something will be said. Even if there's one single golden nugget, it's been well worth it, isn't it?
Definitely. And this was, Tim is much better at this story than I am, but we worked together in Duisburg, and we worked at the gymnastics event, and I do, as some of your listeners may know, I do a lot of muscle testing. Is a big part of my armory of tools and assessment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a really big fan of the whole pre and post testing. By the time if you go in and do an intervention to a patient, to be honest, whether they're an athlete or not, you need to show them that you've changed stuff. So you need to show them that after this manipulation or needle or tape or whatever we've done, you are now more mobile, less pain, stronger. Something needs to change and happen. And that's where I find the muscle testing really comes in. And we've been working along. I've been doing a lot of muscle testing on a few of these gymnasts, and Tim sort of came over. We had a little bit of downtime, and he came over that doesn't look like AK. I went, well, no, it isn't. It's it's different. But just talk me through this stuff. And I think even Tim would probably admit that he was a little skeptical at the time. I said, but just I said, well, this is how I think it works, and this is how the neurology works, and this sort of makes sense. And like, yeah, okay. Do you want to just check me out? And yeah, so we checked through things, and again, I'm paraphrasing slightly. Tim remembers the story better, and I think it was his right-sided abduction, leg abduction, was just really weak. And we tried everything. We sort of looked at sacroiliac, lumbar spine. We could get a few other things strong, but that right abduction just never cleared. So we did some more testing up and actually found a mid-thoracic issue that I have been pretty stiff through there.
Yeah.
Adjusted his mid-thoracic, and his right-sided abduction just, he pushed me across the room. And of course, then this is where the famous quote, he then said, how did that work? And of course, I ended up doing what Tim now paraphrases me from, going, but it did. So again, a lot of those sort of neurological patterns and reflexes, I think we can try and overanalyze. And I think again, those of you who have heard me speak up, I'm a really big fan of the black box.
Yeah.
It's just that black box. Stuff happens in there. But what I do is I try and change something out here, and then I see something change over here. And if that happens, I'm good. Yeah. The neurological pathways of how that happens, some people will be really interested in.
Yeah.
I'm generally not. But
you're good with the black box.
Yeah, I'm good with the black box. But that was sort of, and actually after that, Tim got a real interest in muscle testing, and he still, I think it's pretty much our greeting whenever I meet Tim Stark now. He just goes,
oh man, so we have to blame you for that thing now.
That's mine.
I didn't know it came from you originally, but no, that's great. But it's it's that kind of the universal answer almost.
Yeah.
No,
I think that the thing is, to me, that was always there were always the lectures that I really enjoyed and really respected were the ones who went, you know what, I don't really know. Rather than try and just make stuff up, because I think very quickly, particularly if you're dealing with sports chiropractors who are generally pretty switched on, as soon as you start making things up, it becomes blindingly obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, we all have that inner skeptic, isn't it, who kind of has that bullshit antenna that is like just whirring away here and going, yeah, that guy there.
Yeah, no, exactly that.
But yeah, no, it's interesting you say that you know, that whole idea of sometimes you just blatantly don't know, and you're making stuff up in clinic all the time anyways. You know, you kind of, you know, you're trying to sort out somebody's cough problem or whatnot, and you just look at it and think, yeah, I'm not sure, you know, maybe it's connected to that something else that was going on somewhere, and you just do it and retest, and boom, all of a sudden it's better. So I mean, in a funny way, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter for the athlete, it doesn't matter to you or me.
Yeah.
But I suppose, yeah, there are always those people who want to have that conclusive, definitive answer on the evidence. Goodness me, you have to have evidence, but but sometimes it just doesn't exist.
No, and it's really interesting. That's one of the things that working with elite sport, I thought, oh gosh, you know, because obviously, like all of the physios and rehab and strength trainers and everyone else, you know, have got much higher qualifications than I have. So I thought, oh Christ, are they going to not, you know, is this going to be like super evidence-based? But again, physios in elite sport, they know what it's like. We need to change stuff like this.
Yeah.
We need to get people better. And yes, we all read the evidence. And yes, a lot of what we do, particularly in terms of rehab and loading and, you know, those sort of things, are very much driven by a lot of the latest references and the latest research. But we still do a billion things that has no evidence base, because we historically see that it tends to work with certain players.
Yeah.
And of course, the key thing is that you make your own little trial up. You think, this could be related to this. I'm going to try that. But then, of course, I'm not going to go, oh, and I'll see you next week. I'm going to go, right, we tried this. Did that change anything? Yeah. And if you're now either stronger, more range of movement, or less pain, stuff changed. Yeah. We can make all sorts of theories up in our brain about why that was. But the key thing is you've changed something. And if you, and to me, it's just as powerful when it doesn't work. Because you're now taking things off a list. I was damn sure that right sacroiliac joint was the cause of his glute inhibition. Yeah. You know, I've smacked his I've specifically adjusted his right sacroiliac joint, and his glute doesn't appear to be any happier. Maybe I was wrong. You know, maybe there's something else that I need to look at. Maybe it's not the sacroiliac joint. Maybe it's TL junction or. Yeah,
absolutely. And what about, you know, like stuff where they say, oh, this works 75% of the time. Okay, so if your patient doesn't happen to be in that 75% of the time, then what? Yeah. Then is that like you're allowed to do whatever you want if he happens to be in the 25%? So.
No, it is, and that, you know, as I often say, you know, pretty much every encounter for me with the patient is an N=1 experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because I remember back in the day, like, you know, in uni days, they used to slag off all sorts of different orthopedic tests. They're saying, oh, you know, that test is rubbish. It has sensitivity of whatever percent and specificity of like as good as my dog, you know, and that and then they said, well, but what if you just use it for something else? Why don't you just look for something different? You know, with straight leg raise, if you get a straight leg raise test, right? How many things do you learn from a straight leg test?
A lot.
Because even if you don't get a positive test, you know, like shooting sciatic pain into your foot, I mean, come on, man, you learn like a million things from that test. Which because I did your course back in the day, your muscle testing course.
Yeah.
I don't remember now exactly if you were talking about this then, but somebody did somewhere. But they're talking about, you know, divergence of different tests and how you can just use and make it up as you go, basically.
That make it up as you go along. That sounds like my sort of thing.
Yeah, it does actually. Now, funny enough, that's why you and me get along, because we carved out of the same stump, you know.
But exactly, that's what, as you say. Well, what does the test show me? What specific tissue does this test irritate? I'm really sorry. Specificity is a myth. It literally is the bit, you know, we have no idea. Oh, well, someone hurts here. Is that the bicipital tendon, or might it be the pec insertion, or could it be capsular? We have no idea. And the really cool thing is, most of the time, it doesn't actually matter. Unless you're going to operate on it, it doesn't actually matter. Because what we do is, you know, if someone has, you know, an impingement, you know, a painful arc, oh, what tissue is that? I'm going to do this one again. But does it matter? Because
right there.
Yeah. Because if I can, you know, if I can adjust the mid-thoracic spine, I literally saw an acute urgent patient who had about 110 degrees shoulder flexion, shoulder abduction, and quite acute shoulder pain. Turned out it was his fourth rib. I adjusted his fourth rib, did nothing else, didn't touch his shoulder, and he got now probably another 50 degrees out of both his shoulder ranges.
Nice.
That he was pretty impressed with that, and it tells me stuff. I learn stuff from that and go, that was the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still had some shoulder gunk that we needed to work on. That was a technical term. And and that's why, particularly with a new patient, again, whether they're an athlete or not, I will tend to do a lot of testing and then do one intervention.
Yeah.
And then retest. Yes. Because whether that changed or not gives me information. So if adjusting his fourth rib made not the blindest bit of difference to his shoulder function, I go, well, okay, you know, we need to focus more on the shoulder. But now I knew that actually that was the main driver. Yeah, we'll do some stuff around here, but actually this is the main driver why he had his restriction. And it also, it gives you a really good input into stuff that you're not sure works. Yeah. Again, K-tape is a classic case in point, and actually that 2005, or maybe it was the year after, or the station after, but one of the World Games, where, you know, a lot of, you know, Tim and Brian and those guys were using K-tape. And I always thought, what the hell is this flimsy bit of pink tape? That's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
It always goes, you know, someone you really respect uses some stuff, and you go, well, if they're using it, there's got to be something to it. And then I started experimenting, and of course I used my testing and retesting. And it still blows my mind. As some of you may know that I teach a taping course now. And whenever Donna and I do our taping course, there's still one or two things that just blow our minds. And where even we are still in the background, no. And again, some of you may have seen the video of actually our good friend Matthew from the ski trip.
Yes.
Last year, actually, I think it was on the Royal College ski trip, had a little bit of a fall, apparently. I wasn't there to see it, but apparently did some pretty bad damage to his shoulder.
Oh, I wasn't there last year, no, either. So,
and he sort of rocked up about 3 weeks later at our taping course, and he literally had shoulder abduction and shoulder flexion at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Could not, and it was like a block. Nothing moved. Even passive range, it was you were literally hitting a wall. Yeah. And like, oh, that's a bit weird. So, well, this is a taping course. Let's, you know, you've had stuff adjusted, and you went, yeah, but it doesn't even hurt. I just cannot break through it.
Ooh.
So did a bit of testing, found that he's a subscap. Our good old friend from subscap wasn't particularly happy. So Donna came up with the idea, let's put an inhibition tape on the subscap. Because again, this is all about making theories up in your head, isn't it? Maybe that subscap is just so hypertonic that it's not releasing and stabilizing and letting that shoulder move through. So maybe sort of like a splinting going on. So we put an inhibition tape on the subscap, which is literally just, you stretch the skin and tissue out, lay it down with no tension. And Matt went, and there's actually, on the video, you can actually see him hammering the bench. And his words were literally, no way. No way, because he actually didn't want to believe, and I didn't want it. I didn't believe. But that's the thing. Whether you can theorize the neurology of what happened there, I don't care.
Yeah.
And of course he went, and he literally had no pain, no block, complete full range, shoulder flexion, abduction, full range. And then of course he went, but you like something that's just like some spasm just released as you were testing it or something. That's obviously what it was. But cool. Because of course the one beautiful thing about taping is that it's the only treatment we do where we can untreat.
Yeah, you can reverse it.
Untreat. You know, you can't unadjust or unneedle or ungrafton something. So we whipped the tape off, and Matt went back to.
Oh dear.
So again, the point is that whether you can explain it or not, if you can show a significant change in function, you're on some degree of the right lines.
So the question here is now, did you put the tape back on before you went home? Or did you let it go home without?
I'm a nice kind of guy, okay.
Just for the sheer aggravation, you could have just let it go without the tape, right?
I could have said, well, Matthew, it doesn't work anyway. It's all in your head.
Exactly. Right? Oh goodness me! Hold on, how are we doing with time? We're doing good, man. We're steaming ahead here. Now, what was I going to say? Oh, there's something else I was going to bring up actually with you. It was to do with the FICS seminars. Now, obviously, FICS seminars are there's a bunch of taping stuff there, I believe. We do some soft tissue stuff. There's some extremity adjusting, and what else? Obviously, you've done many more of those than I have. So run us through a little bit of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, the great thing about the FICS seminars is that they do change. They're constantly evolving, and it's constantly sort of moving feast. And to me, the really important part of a FICS seminar is to get that hands-on experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's essential. And I like the idea that there are different instructors, and because everyone brings something slightly different to the table. I guess the puzzle to try and solve is often we've got to make sure that there's some degree of uniformity, and that everyone who does a FICS hands-on course actually gets, a certain level and a certain consistency of information and skills, whilst at the same time allowing for the individual input and experiences of the instructors. And I think that is key. And we try and obviously we've got our stuff that we have to cover, and a lot of the techniques that we have to cover, and that is brilliant. And whenever I teach them, or even when I see other people teaching them with me, I always go, oh damn, I forgot about that hip mob. I need to get back into that. So now, to me, the FICS hands-on is that nice mix of actually getting some proper hands-on experience, picking some tools and some tricks that you can use, not just with your athlete, but actually with your normal patients in clinic every day.
Absolutely. And
then also generally being taught by people who have been in the field, people who have worked, in elite sport. And again, hearing the stories, and it's always that fun, you want to hear those stories. And you went, because I remember that when I was a young sports car, hearing those stories about the Olympics and about, working in it, I thought, that is so cool. And you come away from that going, this just cements me. This is what I want to do. I not necessarily, I want to work at the Olympics, but I just love that whole environment, and this gives me a buzz. And then to me, the third level is, again, everyone brings different stuff, and of course we've got our curriculum that we cover, but everyone brings different stuff, like your taping, like your muscle testing, like your instrument stuff. And so you also, to me, I remember walking away with a little bit of a shopping list of, oh, that's interesting. Never really thought there was going to be anything, but so you have a little list of, I need to check this out further, or I need to do some FMS, or I need to do all those sort of stuff, that you come back with going, that was interesting, I want to look into that a little bit more. So those to me are the three big things that a FICS seminar gives you. It gives you some really great hands-on stuff that will work on pitch side and gives you a baseline, but will also work in clinic. It gives you a big buzz about how cool it is to be a sports chiropractor.
Exactly.
And then again, you get that little shopping list of, there's some more stuff that I need to look into a little bit further. Absolutely.
Hey, it almost sounds like it might be a good idea for established doctors to come to these seminars as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Because, you know, as I said, you know, I as an instructor learn stuff every time I go and instruct, and seeing my fellow instructors doing different techniques. And so, yeah, I'm sure anyone who has done a FICS course, even the ones who completed their FICS course, will learn from re-attending. And particularly if you maybe re-attend with different instructors to whom you were taught by initially, I think there'll be huge value in that.
And also, then you think about the sort of building the network globally, and that, you know, going to potentially doing a seminar in a location that is a bit further afield or something, you know, bring the family, make a little holiday out of it maybe, but, you know, just rock up in a different location and network with the local doctors there. And, you know, I'm sure they have different ways, again, of presenting things and talking about stuff. So, you know, that might be quite nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey.
So now we're just talking out loud here, but you even sort of wonder whether FICS may consider doing a sort of a reduced fee for actually, you know, FICS graduates to come and redo a course if they fancy it. That might be an idea.
We put that into the suggestions box, you know, and we'll have a little think, you know, at some point when obviously now that we get the seminars up and running again. At the moment, everything's obviously on the shelf still because of there's somebody released something and everybody.
Yeah.
But once things kind of start returning back to normal, we'll start getting everything running, and obviously then for all of our viewers and listeners, you know, of course, check out the FICS website, and that's where all the data is, all the dates and things announcements are made there, so you'll find out where seminars may be held close to you and what might be, well, not completely full yet, because I'm sure, you know, there'll be a collective rush to book these places, because we sold a heck of a lot of these, you know, the online learning system things right now.
Brilliant.
So we've got a lot of new young colleagues who are coming up. They're eager and absolutely rearing to go, and you know, fresh meat for the grinder, like they say at the games and that. So no, it'll be absolutely amazing for me to also be part of the team of instructors teaching our new colleagues. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Really looking forward to that as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So good. Hey, listen, you know what? That's been absolutely fantastic, Ulrik. Thank you ever so much for giving us a bit of your time after your wonderful dinner. It was, I think you said, you did look amazing.
Just about, perfect timing.
Yeah, just having your dessert. That's absolutely brilliant. So Ulrik is a cheeky man. He actually sent me a photo of his dinner, and I'm not going to share it here, but it looked absolutely one of those things. So he's a lucky man on top of everything else. But you know what? Thank you, Ulrik. Absolutely has been an honor and a pleasure of having a nice little chat with you about all things sports chiropractic and rugby, and I don't even know where we ended up, how many tangents. But thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
It's been great speaking to you, Mika.
Wonderful. There we are. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Everybody check out the FICS website for all the wonderful learning and educational materials, and we'll look forward to another episode next week. All right. Good night for now.